to Security Confidential by Dark Rhino Security, where we get together and talk about all things information security. Today we're taking a little bit of a deviation. We're going to be talking about bourbon and security and talent. I'm Tyler, an information security practitioner with Dark Rhino Security.
And I'm Jordan Fulk, Enterprise Account Executive with TopTal.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, excited to be here.
And we're going to talk about security as far as talent is concerned.
How hard it is to find.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stick with us, and I guess we'll get this going.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It is... it's called Johnny Drum. So if you had to take a guess at how much that bottle cost, what would you say?
65, 80?
Really? Okay.
Something like that. I mean, is that...
Yeah, I mean, you could buy 3 of those for that, but
Wow.
it's literally like $25 to $30.
I'm terrible at that, by the way.
Yeah, which is why I always have friends try it, because I think a lot of times bourbon can be hard to get into because I think a lot of it's so expensive. I think this one's got a lot of flavor for a little bit of price. So
yeah, well, it's a good one. I mean, the funny thing is that it's not necessarily the really expensive bourbons, as this proves, that are really worth your time. It's funny, they kind of take off, people snatch them up, and then all of a sudden a $45 bottle of bourbon is impossible to find.
Oh yeah.
And you go online and you look it up, and it's like, yeah, you can get it, but it's not $45 anymore. It's $120.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it can get pretty aggressive. I think
when it comes to bourbon and finding the right bourbon, in many ways, to me, it mirrors finding the right talent.
Yeah.
In IT specifically, security specifically, that can be extremely difficult to do.
Very much.
And you'd mentioned before that you had some kind of interesting statistics.
Yes, but they say for every IT opening that a hiring manager releases, they receive 70 plus resumes. And from that, I mean, you might have, 1 or 2% of that actually be qualified individuals.
Wow.
I think that's somewhat, and not to, bash on anyone, but I think that can be a drawback on some of the, job posting websites is there's not really a lot of filtering to it. So what you see is a lot of people looking for jobs that say, hey, yeah, that looks interesting. I'd like to do that. But what you're not getting is, hey, I'm qualified to do that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty interesting. And also, I think on average, it can take, at least on the enterprise side, not for, maybe someone on a startup to mid-sized scale, but it can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months to fill a standard IT position, which is a long time.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that sounds about right. I think a regular IT position, it's amazing the number of people that, 70 applications per open spot is quite a few. And then couple that with 1 to 2% who are actually qualified for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it could look like your dream job, but you have to quickly catch the attention of the person that's looking at that. So, and that goes into the importance of resume writing and networking in the area, and being part of groups and stuff like that. There's a whole lot more to that, but I think the statistic is actually less than a minute that the average hiring manager takes. So if you think about that, 70 resumes, a minute a resume, that's an hour just reading resumes that you're just skimming through.
Right.
So, it can be extremely tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you consider the fact that that's probably not the only rec that they have.
Oh, yeah.
That's open.
And not the only thing they have to do for that day.
Yeah.
Right. What makes a resume stand out? I always look for, if you aren't specifically labeling yourself as a consultant, mm-hmm. which if you're on the security side, I would suggest maybe doing that. I look at longevity in a role. I always think that if a company has someone that's great and very talented, they don't usually let them go very easily. Mm-hmm. So I usually look for duration, how long they've stayed in the role. I also look at career progression. Mm-hmm. So not only have they stayed somewhere for a couple of years, but have they advanced their career? Mm-hmm. I think specifically with security, I think if you look at certifications as well, I think that's huge. I think it shows someone that's willing to take time outside of the 8 to 10 hours a day that they're working to actually invest back in themselves. So I think that's a huge indicator as well.
Right. Yeah, I agree, because it's not a static industry. We're not cutting diamonds here.
Right.
We're dealing with technology that changes so quickly that if you don't see that, and I agree, when I look at a resume, I'm looking for somebody that does invest in their own personal development.
Right.
Not even in security, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a certification. Maybe it's training. Maybe it's a project that they did on their own time.
Mm-hmm.
But certifications are definitely, they have their place. It's I guess metered fare, if you will.
And being in the industry, you probably know what certifications are,
right.
actually mean something.
Yeah.
There's ones that are just, hours based, like, hey, they spent this much time doing this.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they're that great. It could just mean they're slow workers. But, no, I mean, that's an interesting point.
But, from a security perspective, it seems like there's less of a logjam of applicants. And I base that on the conversations I have with people that want to get into the industry. And there's just this hesitant feature quality about people who are really serious about it. That you can tell that they take it seriously, and they're like, I don't know if I've got the skills required. And that's where that conversation about, well, what are you doing in your personal time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you developing yourself? What are you studying? What projects are you working on? And a lot of people, to me, that kind of stuff can be just as valuable as formal education or certifications, depending on what the project they're working on is. Maybe they set up enterprise grade security on their home network. So some sort of thing that is actually applicable to enterprise security. And a lot of people, they leave that stuff off of their resume. They do the work and they don't put it on there. How would you say someone should put that kind of a thing to use? If they've got a list of things they've worked on, where would that go on their resume?
So I always like to see, because I've been in the field for a while, but I'm not technical myself. Mm-hmm. So some things that I've seen that are kind of unique is to underneath a position, talking about accomplishments. So almost having list out a couple bullet points of, hey, these were my daily responsibilities, 2 or 3 bullet points of that. But I always like seeing accomplishment sections. Hey, during this, this role, I actually achieved, X certification, or, from a security standpoint, maybe they got their vulnerability down to a certain percent or something like that, like some sort of accomplishment to show not only what you did, but the outcome of what you did. I think that's always a cool way to show that.
Okay. Yeah. So talking about those outcomes, mm-hmm. as opposed to just, we did this.
Yeah, this is what I did between the hours of 8 and 5, and then I went home and did everything. It's, but you actually brought up something earlier that I wanted to ask you about that. This can get us down a rabbit hole, so I don't want to go that far, but, being someone that's hired people in the past, how much weight do you put on formal education? And I can preface this by saying, I've been to a couple, meetup events mm-hmm. recently, and the speaker talks about how education for the future is a very difficult task because technology is emerging so quickly, and the stuff that someone's going to learn their freshman year is going to be out of date by the time they graduate. So being someone that's in the field themselves, how much weight do you put on, formal education?
So formal education is important for those foundational items. Can you communicate well? Do you have critical thinking skills? If beyond that, I don't put a lot of weight on formal education when it comes to those skills that they're going to be the difference between a practitioner or a professional that I'm going to hire who's going to excel and somebody that's just going to pull the status quo or total line with the status quo.
Makes sense.
The reason is the technology moves so quickly that traditional formal education, in my experience, has not kept up with it.
I agree.
And the degree to which that is the case in my experience has been the case in my experience. It's almost alarming. It's, I've seen a few places that do it well, not plugging it or anything, but Western Governors University does a decent job of keeping their IT degrees up to date, just because they don't marry themselves to any one data source, so to speak, and they'll, keep their courses up to date. Another one that's really good is cybersecurity.it. So it's like library with a CY on the front of it. Okay. And it was started by security professionals. And the intention behind it was to give people access to quality security focused education. And it kind of expanded into IT, all of IT. So it covers things like project management, IT security topics, IT in general topics. And it is created and, I guess curated would be the right word by the people who develop it, who are security professionals working in the industry. And I think that's the thing that traditional education misses when it comes to technology. Yeah, you can go there. You can learn about, technology in general, but it's going to be more of a snapshot in time than a truly applicable, up-to-date version of what you can expect to see in real life.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I asked that question, because I'm always interested in the answer, but I think, college for kids now, and, I don't have kids yet, but at some point I probably have to have that conversation with them. But I think, college by that point is going to be more teaching people how to learn so that they can continue to learn and, potentially have to change their career path numerous ways, in their lifetime. So I think that's always interesting.
I agree. I mean, saying that you want to be a security professional, an information security professional, is like declaring I want to become a lifelong learner and never stop. I don't know if we're we're probably totally screwing this up. Like there's some expert watching us going, you morons, like what? You're supposed to stand up and spin around 3 times and drink a glass of water while punching a stuffed chicken.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up because I've actually started something a while ago with my friends where we actually do tastings. So I think kind of how we started this conversation with kind of how hard it can be to get into bourbon.
Yes.
I didn't really know. Again, I didn't know much about it when I started. Had some friends that were really into it along the way that kind of helped tell me about certain bottles, but it can be pretty intimidating, from the outside looking in. So what I started doing was, one, starting a note on my phone to, every time I tried one, I put a little yes or no, I liked it, didn't like it, why. But what I've started doing is, I'll have friends over and we'll do blind tastings.
Okay.
So I have enough of a collection now where if people come over, I'll try to mix and match different ones to really try to pinpoint what people like. But I think in general, these makers, private selects always kind of get me because some of them are a little bit sweeter. And I personally, I like bourbons that are a little higher proof, but have a sweeter finish to them. And usually, these makers ones, if they've got a high mocha stave or something like that, they're usually a little bit sweeter. So that's what
okay.
I like.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and you've got a website too, right?
Well, I'm going to be starting. I don't have anything on there yet, but
we have a web hosting service.
Perfect. Perfect. That's that could be episode 2.
Shameless plug.
No, that's perfect. I actually have to pick your brain about that, but I own bourbonbookclub.com. I run Bourbon Book Club on Instagram, and I have a Facebook group that's a little bit smaller, just an intimate group of friends that we talk about. So that's it started as a joke, the Bourbon Book Club, those guys don't read. But what it ended up being was just a way to get together with some friends and try to be a little bit more serious about learning about it. So how it started was we had some individuals that I used to work with them, and we would get together and everyone would bring a different bottle.
Okay.
Which we learned you have to keep the groups kind of small, or else you end up having to stay at your friend's house in the middle of the week. But everyone brought their own bottle, and we actually had printed off tasting sheets.
Okay.
I went through everything from like the color to what do you smell, like what are the different notes that you're smelling, what are the tastes that you're getting, what is the finish that you get, and then how would you rate it?
So do you want to do this makers, like go through it like that? Like,
oh yeah, let's
yeah, just real quick. Like,
so I guess if you're looking at, I mean, I would say that's probably like a honey.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd be like, it's kind of brown. Like,
yeah, I would say, I mean, maybe like a honey or like a light copper, maybe.
Okay. It's very creative of you. I mean, I would be really bad at this. Like,
see, that's what the worksheet teaches you.
So that's what. Yeah, I need a color. Is there a coloring book version?
Yeah, I mean, there could be. You're onto something there.
Maybe. Yeah. It smells like booze.
It does. I mean, I get like vanilla. I think it's like a sweeter.
Yeah, it's like a sharp kind of a scent, but then again, that might just be me smelling the alcohol.
Well, your nose is in it, so that's. I get vanilla and maybe like I think you always get kind of the char smell in there. And finally, so the taste, and this is how I've been told to drink bourbon. It's almost like a scotch. Like with scotch, I think you're supposed to kind of hold it in your mouth and breathe over it to get some of those tastes.
Okay.
I think with bourbon, I kind of do the same thing. I kind of let it sit at the front of my mouth and then kind of work its way back a little bit.
All right.
But you try to pick out like almost consistencies that you're feeling in your mouth. Like, is it an oily feel? Is it drying you out right away? Is it tingling? Is like a burn right away? Mm-hmm. That's what I always try to pick out too.
Okay.
So my tongue's on fire right now.
Yeah, that's. What is it? This is.
So I think if you look at the staves,
108.
So if you look at the stave selection on this, I mean, they do have some toasted French spice. I feel like that's what that burn usually is like a spice. But then there's also pretty high French mocha as well.
Okay.
So I mean, I always try to think like, especially with the aftertaste, if you try to think like a Hershey bar.
Oh, okay.
You start to kind of taste it a little bit.
Yeah.
You can work at Charlie's Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. This is all good stuff. Like, cause like, I don't know. I'm like very basic in so many ways.
Your pumpkin spice latte.
I am. Yeah. Just give me some Ugg boots and a North Face jacket, and I am in there.
You're set for the bourbon season.
But I mean, I just know that it's good. It's I can taste the spice. It burns.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just tastes good to me. I mean, but the hard thing for me is really remembering. So I think that's where your idea of writing stuff out comes into play. Like, because taking the notes, yes, no.
Well, and I've done some searching, and maybe for all you developers out there, I've actually looked at trying to find like, hey, is there a some sort of app that I can download that's like a classification type? Like, can I go in and create my own bourbon list and rate it my own way? And I haven't really found a good one. There's a few out there that you can download, but I've never really gotten one that like really sticks with me.
Yeah.
So
take note, you entrepreneurial.
Yeah, all you entrepreneurial folks.
Job opportunity or entrepreneurial opportunity.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell we haven't drank enough yet. You can actually say that stuff.
Entrepreneur.
So you work in the talent industry. What trends are you seeing as far as how people are doing things?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I kind of hate using the phrase like war on talent, because I feel like there's people have used that for the last like 5 years. Oh my goodness. But you can tell you're not in the talent industry at that point, because everyone, that's how everyone says, oh, there's a war on talent, and it's been that way for so long, but I think what we're seeing is kind of a shift in the way companies are doing things. So I think one of the biggest things with future of work and the gig economy. Like, are you familiar with either of those terms?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the gig economy.
Okay. So future of work. I mean, at least the way I understand it is more just like, hey, where is work going to be in the coming years? Like, what are companies doing now to fit people's lifestyles that are changing? And one of the big things I'm seeing is offering some sort of remote capability to workers. I think in any field, whether it be IT security, just information technology in general, or finance or accounting or whatever. I think one of the big things that employees want the most is work-life balance. I mean, you hear that all the time. Well, I want to take my kids to soccer practice. I want to get them on the bus, all that stuff. And I think what companies are doing is being a little bit more flexible about that. I think it's starting to be. I was listening to a podcast the other day that I think they said they polled some number of individuals, and they said at least 70% of individuals have some sort of remote capability in their job, which I think is great. I mean, personally, I work fully remote right now, and it's changed my life. I mean, I'm much more focused. I feel like I get a lot more done. But then again, I can take a break in the middle of the day if I need to and take my dog for a walk. So I think that's a big thing that we're seeing. I think a lot of the market is shifting that way. But we were talking about it beforehand. It sounds like some of the stuff that you guys are doing actually gives people the capability to even do that type of work. So I'm interested to hear your side of the story.
So I think one of the things that has really enabled this kind of move towards remote work has been the move to the cloud. By and large, companies are headed that direction. They're going to cloud-hosted applications and really decentralizing their infrastructure so that they have less of a dog in the fight, if you will, as far as maintaining that infrastructure is concerned. And I think it's led to people wanting, okay, we don't have these systems we have to babysit that live in that closet down the hall. It's all off-prem. We don't have to worry about maintaining the servers, maintaining the site, the temperature of the room that the stuff's stored in. We can get by just using the application and maybe maintaining who can access it. And one of the things that we've tried to do is focus on that. As far as security solutions are concerned, we have gone towards technologies that allow companies to maintain control over their intellectual property and secure their employees' devices wherever they are, or regardless of whether it's BYOD or company issued device. We use technologies that allow us to provide identity and access management that can be tied into the various cloud applications that are out there and still work with legacy applications that might be on-premise. And they wrap in such a degree of security as to ensure if someone is accessing your application, it is someone you want to have access. But it takes it a step further in enabling people to ask for things they need. So if you needed an application, we have a way to give you a dashboard that your employees can say, I need access to this. It gets routed automatically to someone who's designated to approve that request. Click accept. They get the application they need. And I mean, it can take less than 5 minutes.
So I have a question for you. So, given that I kind of live and breathe in this space every day, can you tell me, if an organization wants to offer that capability to their employees, and they don't take the necessary steps to make sure that things are secure, what can happen?
So the downfall, that's a great question. The downfall of any cloud application is it's accessible from anywhere.
Right, which is it's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways. It's great because you can be at conference room P, as we would call Panera Bread, and you can access your application, but it's not good because you can be in some other country and trying to access the application in an unauthorized fashion. And a lot of applications lack the ability on their own to not only stop that, but also let you know that it's happening.
So they can't even detect it.
They can't even detect it. An example that I would give is we did an integration for a company, and once it was finished, it was an overnight integration. It was finished. It's like 1:30 in the morning because of where they were at locale-wise. We started getting all these alerts and complaints about accounts being locked out. What was happening was the client's O365 instance had been under constant brute force attack.
For us non-IT folks, what would that mean?
So that would mean just imagine someone just trying password after password after password.
So password 1, 2, 3.
We call it like a dictionary attack or something along those lines, where you're throwing known passwords at accounts and waiting for something to open up. And that was happening to their O365 instance, and they had not configured it to send any kind of alerts. So we freaked out because we just finished this thing and now all these accounts are locked out. The reason they were locked out is the security that we added in caused those accounts to lock out due to the number of failed login attempts, and which we quickly rectified. And what we did was we blocked the source of those brute force attacks.
That's awesome.
And before that, they had no idea. They had no idea. Those were happening continuously. They didn't have a clue. And that's just one example of how it is great. You can access it anywhere, but it's also terrible because so can everyone else.
Right.
They can knock on the door just like you can, unless you've taken steps to ensure that, the door is inaccessible to people who shouldn't be knocking on it.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go on to the next bourbon. Do you need another glass? Got one right there. So this one is Stag Junior. I believe this is the 13th one that they've put out.
Batch 13.
Batch 13. It's 128.4 proof, which for those of you who are mathematically inclined, unlike myself, 64.2% alcohol by volume. Now this is Buffalo Trace, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, why
don't you pour it first this time? I've been doing it.
You've been doing it?
Yeah.
All right. So I am a big fan of Buffalo Trace. So you like the smell?
I would say leather and cherries.
Yeah, I get the cherries and the leather too.
This one, if you heard me say last time, like that oily taste in your mouth, I feel like this one coats your entire palate.
Oh yeah, that one went right up my
right up the nose.
Right up my nose.
Man, that is good.
It is really, really good.
Wow! And if you look at the glass, when you see how it sticks to the side like that,
I believe they say it's got legs.
It's got legs. It's got legs. So you brought up an interesting topic. One of your favorite. Do you have a top 3 or a top 5? I know I do, and that's a list that I keep running in my phone as well.
Yeah, I would say Stag is in my top 5 for sure. And we just got this a few weeks ago. I gave it a try. Instantly fell in love. IW Harper is another one.
Okay.
I really like that one. The finish on it is really smooth. Blanton's, it's, that
you and the rest of the bourbon industry have that in their top 5.
Yeah, because it is so consistently good. I've never had anybody go, here's have a Blanton's. and I try it and I go, that is something not right about that. I mean, not once.
Yeah, it's very consistent.
They had that fire a while ago or something.
I think that might have been Barton.
Barton?
They had a Rick House collapse.
Oh, that's what okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting for like a Survivor series or like Rick House. You'll triple the cost of that bottle. Yeah. Well, I'll be like, oh, it's unique.
But
like, no, that was our 2-year-old bourbon that just fell.
But yeah, I think those are definitely in there. Jefferson, the Sea Cask.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
That's one of the cooler stories out there.
Cool. Yeah,
it's very unique.
For those of you that don't know, it's basically the cask is put on a ship. It's not like at sea, but it's in the harbor.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, honestly, it may just be a gimmick, but whatever it is, it works because it's like, wow, that's different.
It's marketing at its finest.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And I do like it. It's a great bourbon. I'm trying to think of what else. My other one. I mean, there's so many good bourbons out there.
I should have warned you before throwing that at you. That was hard.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. I think Maker's Mark, honestly, is just
rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, I think it does because I like consistency, and Maker's is always consistently good.
Coming from a security guy, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
consistency is key. I get it. I, on the other hand, not being a security guy, like different.
Yeah,
I like some variation in my stuff. So I also have Stag Junior in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think up to this point, I've probably tried like maybe 4 or 5 of their batches.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, like, I haven't done like a blind taste of them all together, but I'd love to. I think that'd be really unique. I also love Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Oh yeah,
their stuff. I mean, that stuff burns, but
I like Elijah Craig. I mean, like when you open that up.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember they opened one up and they walked past with it. And I was like, man, is that paint thinner? What is that? Like, oh my gosh.
The paint just starts falling off the walls in the hallway.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. And honestly, for anyone out there that's listening that is into security but not bourbon and doesn't care what the heck we're talking about, if you're trying to get into it, even Elijah Craig's small batch, I think it's $35, if that. Yeah. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. But Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's really hard to find. Fortunately, my brother-in-law was able to hook me up with a bottle, but that stuff that might actually be better than Elijah Craig Barrel Proof in my mind. But then to round mine off is Willet 4-Year Rye. Love that stuff. I actually love everything Willet does, but Willet 4-Year Rye, and then I'm still a sucker for Weller Antique. It kind of had a boom here in Columbus for a while. Like everyone was buying it off the shelves, and I was fortunate to have some. But it's still, I think, one of the best. I like. I mentioned earlier, I like higher proof, sweeter stuff. Mm-hmm. So with it being a weeded bourbon, I think it kind of lends to being in my top 5. So I'd say those are mine.
Yeah, those are all solid. I mean, honestly, it's frustrating. Like I can only do 5.
Well, I think whenever I talk to people that are maybe like novice or just trying to get into bourbon, I always ask them, what do you like? And they're like, I don't know. I hate ryes though. And I was actually looking into it today because I was one of those people. I look back a couple years ago and I was like, rye is not for me. And I think so. The definition between bourbon and rye, bourbon has to be 51% corn and a bunch of other variables. Rye has to be at least 51% rye and some other variables. And I realized, now looking back, I like a lot of different tastes. So I think everyone's introductory to rye is probably Bullet Rye.
Yeah, I think almost it. I mean, like that was mine because they were really the first big one that came out and hit the market. Well,
and I was trying to think to myself, I was like, why did I not like it? And then I researched it, and actually, so Bullet Rye is 95%. Their mash bill is 95% rye. Mm-hmm. So that's like I learned how to swim, so I'm going to go off the high dive first thing. I mean, that's on the other side of the spectrum. So I mean, you got to take baby steps into this. You got to go into the shallow end, deep end, then the high dive. But I think that is actually might be what scares people away from it a lot of times. I think that was my introduction to it.
Yeah, because I mean, it has a rougher taste.
Yeah, it's spicy.
It's
spicy.
It's not as easy and smooth,
right?
As more traditional bourbons. And if that's what you're into, and you go to Bullet Rye, expecting it to be,
it's going to dry your tongue out. Like
right away. You're gonna take that in.
But I was trying to think from there. I was like, hey, again, maybe not everyone listening to this podcast is super into knowing about that stuff, but
right.
If you wanted to try maybe a rye that might suit your palate a little bit more, if you haven't tried Old Forester's rye, so it's actually 100 proof rye, but I think it's mash bill. It's like 65%, so it's a lot less, and I think it's like $23 right now, and how it is that, I have no idea. It's delicious. It is so good.
I'll have to give it a try.
It's so good. So, for all your listeners out there, you're welcome.
Well, we can blame you for the price.
Yeah. When it's $50 next year, you can come beat me up.
Old Forester, $120. Secondary market.
I hope so. It'll be all in my basement in my bunker.
Yeah.
But what about this? What about this other one that you got here?
So
I know you're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a Clyde Mays Cask Strength limited release. It's a 10-year distilled and aged in Kentucky, and it's a straight bourbon, 117 proof.
There was only like 5 bottles of this ever made or something like that.
Yeah, it was 3,500 bottles released, and the MSRP on this is $250. And I believe we had to get this one on the secondary market, so it was
$250, only $200 outside.
It was more than that.
Yeah, we had talked before this. I think the secondary market, it's a little foreign to me. I don't really follow it too much, but I think Pappy Van Winkle's 23-year is also $250 MSRP, but you can't find it for less than $1,500, $1,700 if you're lucky. If you can even find it.
Well, I mean, that's why they have the lotteries.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is kind of a unique thing.
I feel like I just walked into like a flower garden.
Really?
Man.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh
like
wow.
Floral. Oh man. I feel like I'm in spring. We just fast forwarded like 2 months in Ohio.
It's like walking through, breathing deeply at Macy's in the perfume area. You know what I mean? Or pick your department store.
That's great.
Choice.
Very great. Again, like some spice, but like super duper smooth.
That is really smooth.
Wow.
I mean, the whole way through.
I guess that's why it's so hard to find. Maybe.
Yeah.
You think?
I think that may have a lot to do with it. I mean,
I can't get over the smell. I wish they'd make a candle out of that.
Oh, that'd be good.
We need to get a hold of Gwyneth Paltrow at the Goop Lab. Try to get some of this.
Gwyneth, if you're
listening,
make it happen.
We'll get you in touch with the Clyde Mays people.
I mean, we won't, but you probably have somebody that can do that for you. But yeah, no, that's amazing.
Tremendous. Yeah.
I mean,
like a oaky char taste that's like just sweet and nice and easy to drink.
Yeah, that spicy taste. I mean, like the finish is it's a little rough. The finish to me was a little bit, just a smidge. But then again, I drink like a freaking
man, that was some good stuff.
Yeah, that was really good. Like you could really taste multiple different flavors.
Flavor notes in that. Yeah.
Yeah. It smells so good. So you work for TopTal.
Yep.
And if somebody wanted to become one of the top tallers, what does that entail? How is that different than?
Yeah, so we're a little unique, very unique actually. So we are a private network of pre-vetted professionals that span multiple industries between software engineering, design, product management, project management, and finance. So to get into our curated network of top talent, you actually have to go through a pretty rigorous screening process. It takes a little while to get into it, but it's really worth it. So what our big selling point is, we've got the quality talent that we can provide immediate access to. So we really hang our hat on the quality of talent that we can offer, as well as the speed at which we can do it. So the delivery piece is almost instant. So within 24 to 48 hours, we can usually get individuals some profiles to review. And from a security standpoint or anything we've talked about, that's top of the line for anyone. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can look me up on LinkedIn. Jordan Fulk, Fulk. My parents forgot the A when I was born, but so you can look me up on LinkedIn. You can shoot me an email, jordan.fulk@toptal.com. It's TOPTAL. If you want to talk about bourbon, I'm always up for that. Like I mentioned, so I run the Bourbon Book Club. You can look me up on Instagram. It's bourbon_book_club. If you want to join the Facebook group, just look for Bourbon Book Club and shoot me a note. I'm more than happy to chat.
Awesome. Subscribe to our podcast and
rate it 5 stars.
Rate it 5 stars if you wouldn't mind. Share it with your friends. We do plan on doing a lot more of these in the future, and
I have to be a part of them.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching.